Hello, I am Alon Burstein, visiting assistant professor in the Department of Political Science and Israel Institute fellow at the University of California, Irvine, here to bring you the summary of the last 24 hours of the Israel-Hamas war. It is currently the evening of December 15, 2023 in the United States, the morning of December 16, 2023 in the Middle East. Starting with the hostage situation, 3 Israeli hostages who were kidnapped alive were shot dead today by the IDF in the Gaza Strip in the Sajaiya neighborhood. According to different reports, the 3, Alon Shamriz, Yotam Haim, and Samer El-Talalka, were killed in an area of Sajaiya that was closed off by the military and no civilians were allowed to be there. It is also reported that there were several intensive gun battles between the IDF and Hamas in the area, and it is also reported that Hamas had been using unarmed lookouts, and thus when the IDF soldiers saw the 3, they presumed they were part of these lookouts and opened fire on all 3 of them. They were mistakenly identified as Hamas and shot dead. Afterwards, the forces realized they may have been hostages, after which time they were transferred back to Israel, their bodies were identified, and the IDF spokesperson announced that today. In addition, the bodies of 3 other hostages were also recovered in the last 24 hours. 2 of them were seen alive in videos taken by Hamas on October 7th during the kidnappings. The IDF is reporting that at this point it is unclear if the 3 were killed by IDF attacks or in captivity. Either way, those are 6 hostages that are now dead. Axios reported today that the head of the Mossad, Dedi Barnea, is scheduled to meet with Qatari Prime Minister Mohammed bin Jassim Al Thani to begin discussing renewing the hostage negotiations. This comes amidst reports in the last several days that the head of the Mossad had asked the war cabinet to approve his traveling to Qatar in order to reignite the negotiations. His travel plans were rejected by the war cabinet. According to Axios, he is now going to soon meet with the Qatari Prime Minister in order to reignite the negotiations. After those 6 are now reported dead and back in Israeli hands, a total of 129 hostages remain in captivity in the Gaza Strip. Moving on to the fighting within the Gaza Strip, there were substantial rockets and mortars today sent from the Gaza Strip, primarily to the southern parts of Israel and to the Jerusalem areas. Rockets targeted the areas surrounding Gaza Strip, specifically Kisufim, Nahal Oz, and several of the other kibbutzim in the areas. There's also a barrage of rockets sent towards Jerusalem, which is the first time this happened since October 30th. Rockets targeted the areas of Jerusalem itself, Abu Ghosh, Mevaseret Zion, Beit Shemesh, Neve Ilan, among others. Interceptions were seen above the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Western Wall in Jerusalem, and in Beit Shemesh there was electrical failure that occurred, and the house was damaged as a result of some of the rockets. One of the rockets also reportedly landed in Ramallah, near a hospital. This is an area in the West Bank controlled by the Palestinian Authority. There are no reports of any injuries or deaths in that landing. Moving on to the fighting within the Gaza Strip. In Jabalia refugee camp, the IDF continued to move through the camp, and confrontations with Hamas operatives were reported throughout the entire camp area. One elaborate Hamas ambush was uncovered, in which Hamas had set up dolls and children's clothes. Attached to the dolls were speakers of children crying and speaking Hebrew. This led to an elaborate tunnel network that goes between a series of civilian buildings, a mosque, a clinic, and a school, with Hamas headquarters in the middle. There were substantial RPG launching sites and lookouts surrounding this area that were located, presumably all part of the ambush. As I say, this is located by the IDF, and they did not fall into the ambush itself. In the Sajaiya area, alongside reports of intensive battles, the IDF reported that it took over the main headquarters of Hamas's Sajaiya brigade after intensive combat. A tunnel shaft was also uncovered, and the entire compound was later destroyed with bombings from the air, artillery, and engineering units. Moving down south to the Han Yunis area, substantial intensive gun battles were reported in the heart of the city, involving face-to-face battles between the IDF and different Hamas units. The IDF also stated that it uncovered a substantial tunnel network and launching sites, and that it also raided the house of the head of the rocket division in the Han Yunis brigade, uncovering substantial intelligence materials. Other reports stated that the IDF located a tunnel in which motorcycles used on the October 7th attack were housed. Among those killed in Han Yunis is Al Jazeera reporter Samer Abu Daka and photographer Wael Dahbou, who was also injured. His wife and children were killed in a bombing last month. According to the report, they were hurt in an aerial bombing that occurred near a school in the Han Yunis area. In addition to this, there was substantial bombing reported in Han Yunis and the Rafah areas, with naval bombardments in Rafah as well. The IDF announced that in a series of air attacks throughout the last week, it managed to destroy military compounds, guard towers, lookout posts, warehouse, and command centers of Hamas's general security units, all along the Gaza-Egypt border in Rafah. So this may be associated with those substantial bombings that were reported in the Rafah area. In addition, amidst reports that the IDF is experimenting with flooding Hamas tunnels, Hamas leader in Lebanon, Osama Hamdan, stated that the tunnels are constructed to withstand such flooding, adding that they were built by skilled engineers who foresaw that this might be an IDF tactic. Regarding casualties, 3 IDF soldiers were reported killed in the Gaza Strip in the last 24 hours. This brings the total number of soldiers that were killed in the Gaza Strip since the invasion began to 121. The Palestinian Health Ministry did not publish any daily reports yesterday, and thus the last report still has the number on 18,787 Palestinians who were killed since the war began, and 50,897 who have been injured. Moving on to the humanitarian situation, Israel approved today the opening of the Kerem Shalom crossing for aid trucks to enter the Gaza Strip itself from Israel. These are trucks that usually come from Jordan. Israel initially stated that no aid would come through Israel. Then, after monumental pressure from the U.S. and the UN, they approved the opening of the Kerem Shalom crossing for truck inspections, and they were then going to be sent to Egypt in order to cross through to Rafah. Several days ago, the United States stated that Israel will soon approve the opening of Kerem Shalom for trucks to enter itself. Today, that was officially done. In Israel, the Prime Minister's office tried to state that this is not going back on what was originally stated this is only a temporary opening, and that this is only due to previous deals that Israel had signed. Either way, this is hopefully going to enable the entrance of more aid trucks to the southern parts of the Gaza Strip, where massive hunger is being reported, as well as the spreading of disease and a critical shortage of medical supplies in the different refugee camps. A total of 150 aid trucks carrying food, water, and medical supplies entered the Gaza Strip in the last 24 hours, and 4 fuel tankers carrying upwards of 129,000 liters of fuel are reported to have entered through the Rafah crossing. Moving on to the West Bank, there was an attempted Palestinian attack near Nablus in a Hawara checkpoint. According to the report, the Palestinian rushed the soldiers with a knife, and he was then shot dead. Substantial IDF activity was reported in Nablus, as well as in Kfar Orif, as well as in several other different areas throughout the West Bank. 5 Palestinians are reported arrested throughout the West Bank in the last 24 hours. No fatalities are reported. Other news related to the West Bank: 15 countries today, including the United Kingdom, France, Australia, Canada, Belgium, Denmark, Ireland, and the EU, among others, all called upon Israel to take harsher action against extremist settlers in the West Bank. This is an increasing diplomatic pressure on Israel. It started with the United States, said that it was going to deny entry for extremist settlers into the United States. This was then followed up by Belgium. The EU then later stated that they were going to also possibly deny entry of Israeli extremist settlers from Israel to the EU. France also put out statements to the UK. Now 15 countries came together and signed a letter, all calling on Israel to take harsher measures against extremist settlers attacking Palestinians in the West Bank. Other news: following a photo image of Israeli border police assaulting a news photographer in East Jerusalem, Israeli police internal affairs stated that it is investigating the incident. This comes amidst other reports from yesterday and 2 days ago, in which 2 reservist soldiers in the West Bank, specifically as part of the operation the IDF carried out in Jenin, entered a mosque and filmed themselves as they used the mosque microphone in order to call out Shema Israel, which is a Jewish prayer, and call out threatening messages to the residents of Jenin. Those 2 soldiers have been suspended from duty. This came under heavy political attack from different elements in Netanyahu's coalition. Now, amidst the photos of the border police attacking the photographer in East Jerusalem, it is now reported that Israeli Internal Affairs is going to investigate the incident. Moving on to the northern parts of Israel, southern parts of Lebanon, there were barrages of at least 13 rockets sent from Lebanon towards Kiryat Shmona. Other rockets targeted the Hanita area in the Western Galilee, Arab el-Ramsha, and throughout the entire northern Galilee, both Upper and Western Galilee. IDF retaliations are reported in 2 major waves, attacking different Hezbollah infrastructure, advanced headquarters, and launching sites. El Miadin reported that substantial IDF retaliations occurred in the Yarin village, while the IDF announced retaliation in the Yarun and the Zarit areas. Reports of retaliations also in the Alavona area and El Hiam as well. Additionally, in a statement that was made today, Minister Gantz, who's a member of the War Cabinet, stated that Israel is willing to engage in diplomatic negotiations in order to push Hezbollah further north away from the border with Israel. However, it is also prepared for military solutions. In different reports, it was suggested today that the United States is trying to pressure Israel to be patient and give a few months until a deal can be worked out that moves Hezbollah up north, but that Israel is not willing to wait that amount of time. IDF spokesperson today also announced that the IDF has intensified its training in the north and is updating battle plans. In addition, there was a report in Lebanon today that the IDF dropped leaflets in the Shuba and Hammam villages, stating, and I'm quoting, "Hezbollah will take over your homes, your lands, your work, and your livelihood to operate against Israel. It will use the civilians for its own terror purposes. For your own safety, you must stop this terror." So all this tells us that Israel is trying to amplify its pressure on Lebanon in order to avoid a war on the one hand, on the other hand being very public that it is prepared for a war with Lebanon and Hezbollah specifically, should one erupt. Hezbollah reported that an operative of it was killed, bringing the total number to 106 that Hezbollah stated have been killed since the war began. The IDF reported that it attacked a 3-person unit along the border, and likely all of them were killed as well. Moving on to some of the regional developments today, the Houthis have been amplifying their activities in the last days. 3 different attacks are reported against ships by UK MTO. The first was a drone attack against the Al-Jarrah ship, which is operated by the German Hapag-Lloyd company. It was sailing under a Liberia banner from Greece to Singapore. A fire is reported to have broken out on the ship as it was hit by the drone, and a crate was reported to have fallen overboard. Later on, U.S. security officials stated that a second cargo ship, also sailing under the Liberian banner, the MSC Platinum, was hit by 2 ballistic missiles off the coast of Yemen. The report suggested that the ship was heading for Jeddah, and that U.S. officials suspected that it may not have been the target, and instead the Houthis may have been trying to again attack. The Al-Jarrah ship, however, missed and hit this ship instead. A third incident was reported in which another ship was attacked, however no details were given, and another incident was reported, although not by UKMTO, and unsubstantiated reports stated that a possible hijacking has occurred, however not associated with Yemen, rather with Somali pirates. In other news, 2 shipping companies, German company Hapag-Lloyd and the Danish Maersk, which is the second largest shipping company in the world, announced that they will not sail through the Red Sea for the time being. The German company stated that it is going to suspend all sailing through the Red Sea for the coming weeks, while the Danish company did not give a specific date or what exactly is going to be the plan. However, these are 2 of the largest shipping companies that are both stating they are not going to sail through the Red Sea at this time. The International Maritime Force, under the U.S. Fifth Fleet operating from Bahrain, began operating. This is a force that the U.S. has been stating is going to operate, combined of several different countries in order to secure maritime passage through the Red Sea and the Arab Sea. According to reports, it started operating today and is going to escort ships in the area. Related to this, the U.S. extended today the presence of one of its aircraft carriers in the Mediterranean, the USS Gerald Ford, in addition to other 16 warships in the region. These include 7 warships in the Mediterranean and 12 throughout the Red Sea, the Arab Sea, and the Persian Gulf, all sent to the area in relation to the war, and all trying to either threaten Iran to not activate Hezbollah or any of its other allies engaged in the war, or trying to secure this maritime crossing. Moving on to some of the political and general trends that occurred in the last 24 hours, major protests had erupted in Israel following the event in Sajaiya. Following the event in which 3 hostages were killed by the IDF, there were massive protests that occurred in Tel Aviv, in which families of hostages demanded that Israel go to a complete deal to return all hostages and suspend the fighting in the Gaza Strip if necessary. In addition, the UN General Assembly today convened to discuss the call for ceasefire that was approved by the General Assembly on Tuesday. During the meeting, Israeli ambassador to the UN, Gilad Erdan, played a video of the Hamas rockets that were intercepted above the Al-Aqsa Mosque, stating that this again substantiates that Hamas is like ISIS, that it would rather endanger sites that are holiest to Islam, all for the purposes of just killing Jews. In addition, there was a report in Al Arabiya today, which is a network out of Saudi Arabia, saying that U.S. officials spoke with Egyptian officials about the need to set up a timetable to end the war. A different report in Al Arabiya stated that the Palestinian Authority chairman Mahmoud Abbas asked the U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan in their meeting yesterday to compel Israel to stop the fighting in the Gaza Strip and to act against the silent transfer that Israeli settlers are carrying out against Palestinians in the West Bank. Moving on to some of the speculation regarding the future of the Gaza Strip, in a press conference today in Tel Aviv, the U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan stated that Israel and the United States agree that the war will continue for months and it will move to a phase of attacking the Hamas leadership soon. In other words, relating to what happened in the meeting between Jake Sullivan and the war cabinet that was reported yesterday, according to that report, Sullivan stated that the United States would like Israel to conclude its current phase of the war within the next 3 weeks and then move to more low-intensity battles, and in turn, Israel stated that the war is going to carry on for months. According to what was at least stated in the press conference, U.S. National Security Advisor stated that Israel and the U.S. both agree that the war is going to carry on for months, however that it is going to change and going to focus on more low-intensity battles and hunting down the Hamas leadership. He added, I'm quoting, "Control over the Gaza Strip must be transferred to the Palestinians. The Israeli government stated that it has no plans to occupy the Gaza Strip long-term." Amidst this, the Minister of Heritage in Israel, Amichai Eliyahu, who is a member of the Jewish Power Party, who had previously suggested that Israel should nuke Gaza, stated that Israel should fully occupy Gaza and should stay in it long term. So what this again tells us is, while there may be agreements between Israel and the war cabinet, Netanyahu's expanded cabinet and his government may have other ideas regarding what is the future of the Gaza Strip. That is my report for the last 24 hours. I'll be back tomorrow.